Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Alluvial guitarist Wes Hauch. The new Alluvial EP, Death is But a Door, is out this Friday on Nuclear Blast Records. Wes talks about joining the military, how friendships help drive his musical career, the search for a vocalist, the influences on Death is But a Door, and more. Over on YouTube, Arrow to the ACL left a comment on chapter 460 with Earthside, saying, "You can definitely tell the amount of time and effort put in each song. The All We Knew and Ever Loved video speaks to me as a band that could have doors open to really do whatever they wanted. Touring, game OSTs, movie scores, really the options are limitless for a group so talented. I always love when people share their thoughts on an episode. If you enjoyed an episode or a band, leave a comment. I'd love to read it on the podcast." Enjoy today's chat with Wes from Alluvial.
I grew up in a town called Yosemite Lakes Park, which is about 30 minutes north of Fresno, which is a city in the Central Valley of California. If anyone's familiar with Southern California, like when you get over the Grapevine and you hit Bakersfield, that's where like the Central Valley starts. And then Fresno, I guess in some cases, is considered like the dead center of California. So like I kind of in one way or another, I feel like it's this place where people seek refuge where they weren't able to like make it in fucking Southern California or Northern California, you know what I mean? So it's just reprobate, like it's the scourge of the earth.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's where I grew up. And I guess after that, I got out of there when I was 18 years old. I joined the military, and I largely spent my 20s and 30s in Southern California when I wasn't deployed somewhere. So like Ventura County and San Diego.
Okay.
And then also, you know, post-military, like the Valley, you know what I mean? And Hollywood as well.
Gotcha. What then led you to the East Coast from there?
I met my wife out here. I've always loved Atlanta. I guess I started coming out here around 2010 or 11 when I started touring. And yeah, it's just kind of like a city in the South that has the same amount of activity that like LA had, you know what I mean? In terms of like shows and like, a lot of musicians and everything like that, but none of the things about it that are difficult, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's considerably cheaper to live here, and then you're not going to get like a fucking street sweeping ticket, you know, in front of your house. But I moved out to Atlanta at the end of 2017. I've been here ever since, and the rest of the guys in the band kind of live all over. Kevin lives on Long Island. Notice I said on. I've had to get good at that. You can't say, you know what I mean? Like you'll get roasted by a New Yorker if you say, "Oh, he lives in Long Island." Yeah. It's not in, it's on. Nope. And Zach, our drummer, lives in Indianapolis, and Tim, our bass player, lives in Houston. So when we start tours and, you know, do anything, everyone flies here, and we start everything out in Atlanta.
Gotcha. When did this project start, Alluvial start out of like moving and needing like a new group of musicians to play with?
No. It kind of started in 2015 when I still lived in California. I briefly moved back to Fresno, and I ended up I'd largely at that point, and I mean, kind of for the most part of the last 12 years have gone out playing other people's music.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot that I got out of that, you know what I mean? Like I definitely like, a lot of the bands that I played in like made me a better guitar player, but it was extraordinarily difficult to get anything off the ground myself because I guess being in the military and like sort of the travel, and then where I grew up, there wasn't really a music scene, not one to speak of. So it wasn't like there was a ton of different people to play with. So I'm kind of a late bloomer in that regard when it comes to getting my own shit off the ground, or getting it moving. So I started the first record that came out was supposed to have vocals on it, but that ended up being a task. Just with there's a handful of things. I don't think I was super developed enough yet as a songwriter. Like there's a lot of 7-8 minute long songs on on there. You know what I mean? So and that would be hard to put any vocals on. Right. So there was that, and like it was just tricky. But like with anything, you hang out enough, and you don't give up, and you stay determined, something will end up happening. And me and Kevin met in the very end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and I wrote a bunch of songs that ended up being like the songs that we had on Sarcoma, and kind of wrote them blindly, because even at that point I wasn't even sure what Kevin would sound like on it. It was very casual, and then suddenly it came together, and we finished everything up in like 2019. So by the time Sarcoma came out, which is our second record as a band, but what I kind of refer to as our first like real release, it was fairly old, by the time it came out. It was, like I said, finished in 2019, and it came out in May of 2021. Pretty much in the middle of like the COVID thing. So we weren't able to tour on it until like April of last year is kind of when like, everything reared its head again, and everyone was able to go out and play shows and everything. I don't know. It was pretty cool. I don't feel like we were able to maximize the full potential of that record, because it was maybe considered old hat by the time it ended up coming out, and by the time we were able to tour on it. This EP that we put together this year is definitely the opposite of that. Like some of the shit was written in June, you know what I mean? And recorded in July, and then came out in October. So it was definitely a different feeling, and it was rewarding in the sense that it was the first time that we've been able to go out on a tour with brand new stuff. On this recent run we did with Tesseract and Intervals, it was definitely it was definitely a different tour for us, in that like we've been touring with kind of death metal bands, extreme metal bands, and Tesseract and Intervals are like
not that.
Yeah, I mean, like they're both like stunning bands, and they have both bands have like a really, really dialed in live show and stuff like that. But we weren't sure how it was gonna go, because we're kind of I don't know, like the band for like kids who get bad grades and don't have a great relationship with their parents and shit like that. And but it went sick, and I mean, and we brought a lot of fucking people out to the shows. Like it shocked me. Like I couldn't I was surprised. I wasn't sure that any of the work that we did in 2022 had made a dent or made anyone aware of us. But there was a fucking lot of people out at the shows for us, so it was a cool feeling. It probably was something in conjunction with the work that we did, and then us having brand new shit to play and all that other stuff that made it go really well for us.
Yeah. Let's go back. What led to you joining the military? Just like no other prospects, or did you have a draw or desire to serve?
The short version of the story is I got in trouble.
Okay.
I spent a little bit of time in the county jail and got out, and I initially had like a crazy charge. Like I had a felony. I was in a vehicle with someone who had robbed a home, and some of the stolen goods were in the car, and I was older than him, and they tried to make it seem like I extorted him for money, and that's why he robbed I don't know. I'm getting into too much detail here. But anyway, I didn't rob a fucking house. They figured that out about a month and a half into me being in jail through a thorough investigation. And they were like, okay, let's let him out. And he's on informal probation. But the area that I grew up in was, like it is a little bit of a hellhole, you know what I mean? It would have been a very easy place to get stuck in and continue getting in trouble. So like I had the sense enough at 18 years old to be like, all right, well, I got to get out of here. Yeah. And my parents aren't rich, and I don't have any money to move anywhere. And not that my parents should have paid to move me anywhere. You know what I mean? I was a fucking man, 18 years old. I needed to take care of myself. So that was the best option.
Gotcha.
Join the military and get out of where I was, and start paying. And I was pretty much freshly 18 years old when this happened. So I just fucking hit the ground running and started paying my own bills, and went all over the world with that for about 5 years, and then I did a shore duty in San Diego, so I ended up doing a total of 8.5 years. And the one thing that was great about it is that it put me in Southern California, which was the place that I wanted to be in general. You know what I mean? Even though that like Ventura County was a little bit of a haul from LA, in terms of, you had to go over the hill into Camarillo and all that other shit. It was still, I was a fuck of a lot closer to, music and the things that I wanted to be a part of than I was in Fresno. And, same thing could be said for when I was in San Diego. And, about a year after I got out, I started using my, my GI Bill, which is basically when you join the military, you have the option of taking a sign-on bonus, you know what I mean? Which was probably something like $8,000 at the time, or you can pay into this thing called the Montgomery GI Bill, which is, as I understand it, it's a government bond, right? And you pay into it, and like it matures, and the next thing you know, you have like fucking this much money for college, which I think it ended up being like 40 to 60 grand or whatever. So, but it's just for college, you know what I mean? Like you can't just pull it out and, go buy fucking Coke with it or whatever, like it's like it's there for you to go to college. So I use it to go to Musicians Institute for a little while.
Gotcha.
And that was when I lived in Hollywood, and right around that time, I guess, I had like it was the first time that I guess, as an adult or even, whatever, that I was sort of kind of meeting a lot of other people who were, out doing the thing in bands and shit. And I guess through that, people started knowing me as a dude who they thought was good at guitar. And next thing I knew, I was out doing it. You know what I mean? And that time frame, like I said, everything kind of moved pretty quick. There was like a lot of it, I think, that was sort of based around partying. You know what I mean? Like there's like the school thing didn't really do anything to, get me a gig, but just, when you're young and irresponsible and you can kind of bond with people through partying, and that's how, that's how I ended up sort of meeting people by accident. And so never underestimate the power of partying,
Yeah. Is that what led to you joining the Faceless?
Yes. Javier and Tosin had moved from, I guess, DC is where they were originally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They had moved to North Hollywood. They had a house in North Hollywood and routinely would have parties. And that was the first time I ever met Keen. Was at one of those parties. I remember going over to his house and hearing kind of the first few things from Autotheism before it came out. And I remember just sort of making a joke. I was like, damn, this shit is sick. Like, it's too bad that it's not like a 3 guitar player thing, like Whitechapel or something like that. Like, it would be rad to jump in there and do it. And he was like, Keen said something like, somewhat of a foreshadowing, I guess. He was like, I feel like Steve might be at the end of his time with the band. So maybe that could happen. And oddly enough, it did. Steve, I think, had gotten kind of domesticated, had a girlfriend and stuff like that, and decided not to tour. I saw him not all that long ago too. He's still the same happy-go-lucky little guy. Nice. But yeah, that's how it ended up happening. And yeah, dude, like, like, it was strange, like I said, for a guy who spent most of his time, playing guitar without anyone patting me on the butt for it or anything like that, and not really being able to find people to play with and stuff, and playing some local shows to doing what I would consider to be really, fairly prestigious touring starting out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like being direct to like Devil Driver. Like the first tour I did with the Faceless was Devil Driver, Faceless, Dying Fetus, Job for a Cowboy. So it was pretty radical. And there was some learning curve stuff too. Like, right. That was the first time. It was like, I'd never played in ears before. You know what I mean? That was the Faceless was like, yep, that's what we do. So I had to kind of figure that out pretty quick. But yeah, that's roughly how that story goes.
Nice. Where'd the name for Alluvial come from?
A street that my apartment was on in Fresno. And it is, like roughly kind of has to do with, I mean, I guess if you really look into it, it has to do with like how rocks changed into soil and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, roughly. And, there was a good amount of time that I thought about, especially before we signed a Nuclear Blast and we put out Sarcoma. There was a period of time where I was like, I I don't really have an attachment to this fucking name. Like, you guys want to change it, and everyone was just like, nah, let's keep it. And so here we are. And I don't have like a big sort of grand meaning for why that's the name of our band. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, for anyone,
it just kind of worked. Yeah.
For anyone who's wondering if there's more under the hood about that, no.
You kind of answered half the question I had, but as you guys were touring for the Deep Longing for Annihilation, was there any point where you thought, like, maybe this project doesn't need a vocalist and it'll just remain instrumental?
No.
No.
My vision for it was for it to always have vocals. And like I said, there were a handful of people that we ended up kind of trying out, but they had a tricky time getting it. And like I said, I handed over what would probably be considered some very tough shit to write lyrics and patterns over, because it was pretty long and meandering sort of arrangements. Like, Deep Longing serves its purpose as being this sort of heavy, vibey, conservatively technical metal guitar record. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, no shade to anyone who has instrumental music at all. You know what I mean? Like, I love it, but for me personally, like, I've always just wanted a band with a vocalist format, and I wanted to write sort of like, 3.5, 4.5 minute long action packed songs, and there's a big challenge in that too, you know what I mean? Because when you're writing songs like that, you have to heed sort of like, you're kind of acting as your own drug dealer, right? You're kind of acting like, like you're seeing how it's making, chemicals go off in your brain, and you're kind of paying attention to the end user experience. Whereas like, your sort of longer, more adventurous arrangement type songs, don't necessarily require that type of restraint. And there's, like I said, there's no shade to it, because it definitely serves a purpose. And I mean, there are definitely even bands that have vocalists that have long as fuck songs, right? You know what I mean? Like Between the Buried and Me, obviously, and their fans are sort of like prepared for that. You know what I mean? They have 25 fucking years of them writing these like really crazy prog type songs, But for us, especially on Sarcoma, and especially being a new band, like, you kind of want to give someone, I felt like, we want to be able to go out and play 6, 7, 8 songs in 30 minutes,
Right.
And make them entertaining, and kind of, I don't know, like the goal, I guess the thing we always talk about is like, we kind of want to make people shake their ass, you know what I mean? But we kind of want to like break their heart and make them angry at the same time, and I think, yeah, being a fun band, but have this scary, heavy thing to it is sort of the goal. And there's, like all of my favorite metal bands have those qualities, you know, and so I'm just kind of trying to do that.
How'd you guys get connected with Nuclear Blast?
Good friend of mine, John Birkland. He was the drummer for Devil Driver for most of the band's career. In more recent years, he started a band called Bad Wolves, you might be familiar with. He's just one of my best friends, and kind of was like an early supporter of the band. And he's had a relationship with Monty Connor for a long time because of, like, Devil Driver used to be on Roadrunner, and Monty used to be the guy who, ran Roadrunner. And he just kind of casually ran it by Monty, and Monty loved it, and here we are. It was very cool too, because Nuclear Blast, I kind of felt was like the perfect place for the band, there's a lot of great metal labels out there, obviously, right now, you know what I mean? But like, there's a certain pedigree, I guess, in the records that I love, and my favorite bands are all kind of parked at, or a large swath of my favorite bands have put out their records with Nuclear Blast. So it was a cool thing, to land there. And dude, like, Monty's also signed, and he's also really responsible for a ton of my fucking favorite records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's been radical. As far as like everyone that we work with on a day-to-day basis, like with putting out this shit, and everyone at Nuclear Blast has an enthusiasm for the band that I find to be pretty inspiring. You know what I mean? Like I said, I hadn't really, even as a touring guy, everyone like super patted me on the butt and told me my music was worth a fuck. You know what I mean? But to have this kind of positive reinforcement from a label like that it's a great thing,
The new EP is called Death is But a Door. That's the closing track on the EP. What made you go with that as the title?
You ever seen Ghostbusters 2?
Yeah.
Well, that's where we started with the line. The time is but a window, death is but a door. But I guess when you think about it on the related to Ghostbusters and everything like that, you might come across as some sort of like a slapstick sort of scary movie comedy, but like the as it relates to this EP, it's just basically like a nod to I don't know. Like, I don't want to sit here and, maybe I'd prefer to leave that up to other people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, obviously it is somewhat of an idea, that like there's something beyond death, but I guess I guess I'd leave that up to anybody else who ends up getting into the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you really give a fuck, get in there, read the lyrics, and you know what I mean, figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, but the last record we did a lot of, you know, they asked me for a lot of quotes for songs and what things meant and everything like that, and I guess at the time I felt compelled to give very detailed sort of quotes about songs and certain things about the record, but it's not very fun ultimately. I think, you know, close your eyes, listen to the shit, and you tell me what it means to you, because I definitely do feel in a lot of ways that like we're only a band that goes out and is continually making music and going out and touring because of the people that give a fuck about us. You know what I mean? So like once you finish a record, it kind of belongs to them.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not ours anymore. So I prefer to let everyone who, you know, like, their imagination has been captured by the band and it means something to them. I'm going to let them figure that one out.
Yeah. Once it's out in the world and somebody hears it, they get to take it and apply whatever meaning they want to it. And there are songs where I'm like, I know what that song means, but that's not what it means to me and how I relate to it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I always talk about it this way, like with the whole drug dealer thing. Like, you ever listen to a song, right, and it's just like some chord or some chord change, or it's some rhythmic motif, and that thing will make you laugh. You'll laugh, you know what I mean? And like, you'll laugh at like, God, that was sick, or like, God, like irrespective of lyrics. Yeah. You're like, God, I've felt that way before. You know what I mean? And that's all we're trying to do. Yeah. Straight up, is like, we're all just like that as a band. We're just in some way trying to make you do that and go, oh, okay. And if you could do that, right? Like, everyone's life experience is pretty different, and you know, you get to crawl inside the record and kind of live in there and fucking, you know, view it from, you know, whatever shades you got on. And my favorite records were all that way, you know? You know, everything from the Elton John records to, you know, like Pierce from Within to fucking, you know, the Great Southern Trendkill. We were all these records that had such a decided vibe, you know what I mean, that you almost felt like it was your duty to get in there and fucking live in it. And you know, that's hopefully what people do with our shit. Yeah. Who did the album artwork for you guys? It's this cat named Paul. I believe that's how you were supposed to you pronounce his name. It's Pol, Spanish guy. His website is Bronca Studio. Fabulous fucking guy, fabulous artist. And you know, like, we're not a satanic band. We're not like a band that's, you know, gonna tell you about space and physics and shit like that, you know what I mean? Or we're the vibe, I guess, that I've always tried to nail is like this sort of MK Ultra, LSD, sort of like late 60s into mid 70s aesthetic, you know what I mean? And it's a tricky thing to nail, right? Because like most people's like experience, you know, with like LSD visuals, there's like your kind of bargain bin sort of like Timothy Leary, like groovy Austin Powers kind of fucking, you know, thing. And you know, when you peel back the layers, I'm definitely I definitely live in the buffet of conspiracies. You know what I mean? Like I'm a conspiracy guy, you know, but I have a healthy relationship in that. That's why I say I call it. I'm in the buffet. I'll put everything on my plate and I'll check it out. But like chances are, if something is really fun, you know, it's probably not real. If something is just too fun, you're like, yeah, that's probably bullshit.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously there ain't anything bullshit about MK Ultra, you know. That's about as real as it fucking gets. So yeah, it was that type of vibe, and he just fucking nailed it, man. Like he just got it, you know. And it's kind of like this. The cover sort of like makes you think that it's like perhaps a movie, you know what I mean, with the rating and certain stuff like that. But I also think it's obscure enough, you know what I mean, to where, like I said, like if you get in and like, you know, read lyrics and I don't know, looked up anything about us or me or any of the things that we're into, that you might be able to, you know, get into something and learn something, you know.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you find the image compelling, typically you're going to go and dig in and try to figure out what it's all about. But yeah. It's a cool cross between a horror film vibe and also just like digging through a crate in this old crushed record. Like it's a very cool concept. Yeah, thanks. We're very stoked on it. You know, that's one of the other things that's weird is like you start writing music and then you're kind of like tasked with creating this visual part of it. You know what I mean? Because and I don't necessarily think that was something I was very good at. My wife helped out a lot on this one, you know. She's definitely got a really great eye for you know, the type of shit. She's the coolest. She's cooler than me. You know what I mean? Like her dad raised her on really cool shit. You know what I mean? Like she's almost, she's like my 70s girl. You know what I mean? She's definitely like a reincarnated 70s. Like she definitely knows a fuckload more about like Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and all of the really important shit like that than I do. And she's just got a really good eye for, what I was after, and between her and Paul, they knocked it out. They got it done.
Nice. EP is out January 12th. You guys, I mean, we're heading into that time of year where things slow down. You guys just looking to like big 2024 plans, or you going to start working on a full length?
Well, this summer, we wrote 12 or so songs. So like, there is what I would consider to be half of our next full length done. But we wanted to put out this EP before the Tesseract run because honestly, we were tired of playing the old shit. We played a lot of shows on Sarcoma, even for the short amount of tour, like time that we were able to tour on it. We fucking, you know, we played a lot of shows, and it was like, man, we want to play new stuff, and we wanted, I guess, bridge the gap between us having a new full length, you know, and putting out 4 songs seemed like a cool way to give people new stuff. We were tremendously proud of the way that those 4 songs came out. Representing like an EP. I tend to think that there's a ton of people who still really care about full lengths, but like that when you put out a full length these days, it would seem like the focus tracks, like namely singles, right, tend to be in your top 5, you know?
Right.
So there's not a ton of people going in and digging into the the B side of a record. So having 4 songs seemed like a good thing to give everyone before we did our next full length. And it gave us a way, like Sarcoma was, I guess, I don't want to say it was written intentionally to be outdone, you know what I mean? But like, it's us kind of trying to figure out this way to, well, the vision for the band is for us to get like darker and more piss and everything like that, but try to do it in a way that isn't, the same or bargain binny or kind of like, a way that like we aren't proud of, like we, it's, there's a lot of cool things that I'm really proud of, like Fogbelt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that fucking song, like when we got that riff and that, like in there and heard it and everything, it was like, oh my God, that's going to be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
There's Bog Dweller as well, and we felt like those were 2 really good ones to put out. Yeah, the other 2 songs, Death is But a Door. I always like to say like the sort of like makeup, the sort of nomenclature for the band is that like we're like 45% like a death metal band. You know what I mean? Like we're like 45%, our favorite death metal bands. And then we have this sort of 30% traditional metal, Pantera, Slayer, Metallica, Creator kind of thing. And then there's this kind of like grunge thing that we have, right? Like this Soundgarden, like super unknown, Alice in Chains, the stuff that got me started playing guitar, you know what I mean? Like the shit that made me, like when I heard it as a kid, made me go, fuck, I want to do that, was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and fucking Stone Temple Pilots, that type of stuff. And Death is But a Door is like, I kind of think of it as like it's like our grunge side, but it's but it's also a lot heavier, I guess, in those bands. And I don't necessarily know if that's like a down to the Sonics, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like I kind of think of Death is But a Door as like somewhere between like 4th of July, Soundgarden, and like The Thing That Should Not Be, Metallica or whatever. Like that's something just big and heavy and like a lot of attention paid to it not being overly technical or complicated, just like big and heavy and vibey and sad, and that's always going to be a thing that I think throws people for a loop about us, right? You know what I mean? Because like, dude, straight up, I think there's a lot of people who heard our last record or heard a song like 40 Stories, which is like the biggest song on Sarcoma, and think that we're like a progressive band. I mean, dude, like that's even been said straight up. There's people who have heard that song and go, oh, they're like an American Opeth. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, have you heard the rest of our music? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and like, because there's a slow shuffle and a mid-gain guitar, like you think we sent, no shade to Opeth, obviously, all the respect to Opeth, but like, there's these things that I think people like, there's probably going to be a lot of people who just hear of us for the first time from Death is But a Door and are not going to have any fucking clue that we have a song like Fogbelt or Bog Dweller or, like Putrid Sunrise or Exponent or any of the like more heavy songs on Sarcoma. And that's just kind of what you're up against, I think, as a brand new band. But yeah, we like, that's the whole break your heart part, you know what I mean? But also make you shake your ass, that type of thing. So yeah, that song comes out this Friday, actually.
Nice.
And we have a crazy fucking music video for it. And yeah, the final song, have you heard it?
Yeah, I've heard the whole EP.
Yeah. So that song, the last song that's going to come out in January on release day, Area Code. That one is like, that's another one that if anyone like, I mean, it's like ruthlessly heavy, you know what I mean? And it still has like it has a crazy guitar solo in it. It has like probably some of our heaviest shit in it, you know what I mean? And like I there's moments in that I think people will go like, whoa, what the fuck? You know, like there's like a full blown chaos riff, you know, in it and shit. You know what I mean? Like there's stuff you wouldn't have, I guess, imagine. So that'll probably be the trend for the rest of the time that we're a band. But I mean, you know, we're definitely figuring out, you know, I think that's what you do is you sort of figure out what you are, you know, over the course of time. But I guess it's a good thing that we got the singing thing out of the way on Sarcoma, because like if we ended up doing it later on, it would like people would turn their toenails green and they'd fucking hate us and abandon us, you know. So like the people who are the singing, you know, on Sarcoma, they were out right away. They're, you know what I mean? They're like, all right, this isn't for me. Fuck these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we let everyone know, I guess.
Yeah.
That we're gonna do that.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just attack it and never